Well, hey there team, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to a bit more Hardspace Shipbreaker. Let's just double check. Our certification's all going good, 3,000. I don't know if that's really going to buy us more than a bag of mixed lollies, but let's have a look. No, I don't need to repair that. We might be able to buy something for me suit, actually. No, maybe not. What do we need? 3,775. Oh, we're pretty close. We're pretty close. All right, well, we'll jump back in the deep end of the pool, and we'll keep doing this as well. I want to hit another heavy cargo. I'm going to keep grinding away at this because I'm finding I am on autopilot a little bit, but I'm also getting in there and trying to get that money out. I'm recording this relatively soon on the heels of the previous episode where I kind of revisited the mod situation and talking about loftier ideals and how I'm happy to continue to do it as long as there's a hunger for it. I'm just not going to necessarily dedicate a segment yet to sort of podcast chatting and that sort of stuff. The main reason that I sort of came down on that side is it's difficult to manufacture that sort of situation, that environment where we are going to be able to talk about it. Now, because we're just infinitely grinding for loot and we've got all the gear unlocked and all that, this actually is a pretty good little forum for us to talk about some interesting stuff. But if I was playing a new game from start, trying to learn all this, the nuance and all that sort of stuff, then, you know, it'd probably be a little bit different. But yeah, and if you did miss it, it was a little bit of a follow-up. I appreciate everybody's feedbacks and thoughts, well, at least the people that were civil, but I'm not going to let a few bad eggs wreck that. You guys were great. There's obviously a very strong movement that are super pro video game modding, and I'm not against that. Like I said, we've covered very much. If anything, I'm doing devil's advocate. I'm very open to mods in the modern setting. But I do like that you can't just all agree on the same thing and never go, why? I think it's important to sometimes check yourself and go, why do I think this? Because the amount of people that will be debating on a topic or saying this is just right or wrong, and if you legitimately go, okay, why? Explain it to me. Quite often they'll get defensive and angry and they'll want to fight you because they think you're attacking them, but you're not. You're legitimately asking, okay, why? Why do you feel this way? And they never actually truly took the time to consider why they hold that position other than because they were kind of told to. Now, I'm not saying that's what people are doing with the mod discussion that we've been having. In fact, there's been some really interesting concepts been put across, and I really, really do appreciate it. Something I might just touch on really quick, sort of strike while the iron's hot. Now, I haven't really seen any feedback on the last video at all, but there is a concept that got flirted with but hasn't really been realized. So, and again, consider me the devil's advocate because I think it's good to encourage conversation around these sort of topics. And for those that don't really understand devil's advocate, at least my understanding is this isn't strictly my position that I hold, but what I am doing is intentionally holding the counter position to someone else's position because it keeps you honest. It forces you to really consider why you think what you think, and to examine that and potentially evolve your position in any direction. You know, what's the point of saying, you know, God is real or something like that? Well, I'm not necessarily going near that issue. We're not opening that up. But like, not ever really having a think about why you think that, you know, why the other side thinks differently, you know, like it's healthy. But anyway, most of you probably understand what devil's advocate is. I'm going to keep just gutting this ship open while we talk. So, one thing, and I understand, I absolutely fully understand the idea of expanding upon someone's previous work, right? I was talking about the artistic merit and the sanctity of, which I think is a fair argument and worth considering, but the other side of it is a sort of, not necessarily corporatization, but let's sort of say the collaborative side of taking the work and making it better. Now that's interesting, but something that gets brushed on and hasn't been addressed fully too much by you guys in the comments is people will bring up things like, I don't know, like DayZ or something like that. Now I'm not really big on DayZ, I don't know much about it, but they bring up examples of games that kind of released in a broken state, and through the power of modding and the community and all that sort of stuff has been managed to sort of Come on, I know you're loose. Wait, what is going on here? What is going on here? It's pulling this whole section? Oh no, that's no. Oh, I'm gonna get squashed. No, I'm not. False alarm. And yeah, okay, so I won't waffle on that too much, but wait, why are you still stuck together? What has happened here, sir? Yes, using modding to increase the value of a game and blah blah. That's, well, I'm not trying to be dismissive, but that's not the point that I'm sort of raising. People have said, well, you know, a game might be broken or incomplete. The devs abandoned it because maybe that's just how it ended up. They ran out of money or whatever, and then people can fix it through mods. Now, I find this a really curious position because I'm not going to stomp my feet and jump up and down. But I think if you're fixing someone else's product because so it's not a creative decision. It's not that you're going, I want to change this. Like I said before, like I'm going to turn it into a total Warhammer total conversion mod or something like that. That's not that. It's that the product is actually incomplete and in a broken state, and the community uses the tools to fix it. And I've heard people use that as a bit of an argument, saying that that's a good thing, which I would sort of argue you're almost already drinking the Kool-Aid at that point, as opposed to asking what's in the Kool-Aid, right? So what I'm getting at is you shouldn't be fixing the mods. And while I'm not necessarily calling for revolution or any of that nonsense, instead of fixing the game with the mod tools available because it wasn't completed in the first place, the creator should be called to account. And this conceit has been radically relaxed because of the onset of early access gaming, which is where I'm sort of drifting into a little bit. Now, early access is an interesting idea from like an indie grassroots perspective, right? It's one way to sort of proof of concept your work. Maybe it's not fully complete, but it's kind of like Shark Tank for the lay, for the common people, right? We're not investors with billions of dollars. We're not part of that world, but it's sort of like bringing investment to you, and you can sort of weigh up whether that game's worth it and that sort of thing. But I believe that the trust, because early access is unregulated, has been abused, and I think this is a sister issue to not the core mod argument, but the mod argument that you can use mod tools to fix or even improve upon the original creator's thing. Okay, so I'm not talking about adding cool stuff and turning it into something different with the mods. I'm talking about fixing something that should have been fixed from the beginning. And we're now starting to run into a problem with early access where we have abandonware. You know, we have things that are trying to turn a quick buck and they get abandoned in an early access state more and more. I think DayZ is one that some people have accused of being exactly that. I don't know the full story. Not necessarily. That's not what it's about. This is more about conceptual stuff. Philosophical, as you will, not a specific example. But so that's why, like, I really dislike early access. But you can probably guess that given the way that I'm very much about directors or developers' intent in the first place, right? Come up with your concept, project manage it. I've done project management as well, which is another reason why I probably am a little bit more touchy about, project creep, scope, that sort of thing. That's the problem with early access. There is zero project management in most early access, and they just keep promising things, even stretch goals and all that sort of stuff. People think stretch goals are a great idea for sort of crowdfunding, and it's not really. All you're really saying is just keep giving me more money, and I'll keep making promises that probably aren't super realistic. Anyway, I don't want to lose my thread. But what I'm sort of getting at is that early access has run so rampant and unchecked, it's kind of corrupted the process of layout game, layout scope, make game with funding, release, wipe hands of it, learn from it, move on to next project. Like, this in any other industry is how it works. You have tender proposals in all sorts of contract environments for all sorts of things. You basically have a list of requirements, you tender, you get your, I guess that's a little bit different. Tendering's a bit back to front. That's more my experience though. But I suppose these games aren't ever being held to account. These developers and oh my god, that might get in the way. These developers and publishers to a point as well just... Oh no, please... Yeah, hey, never doubted, not for a second. Did that just tilt the whole ship? Crazy. They're not being held to account. I mean, you get these sort of success stories, the Subnauticas and all that sort of stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, early access works when it's done right, but it is abused. And anyway, this tied into the sort of mod rant, namely because the defense has been floated that we can use mods and open source and all that to finish someone else's work or make it more complete because, and well, the sentence doesn't get completed, but it should go like this: because that person didn't finish it as promised in the first place. I hope you follow what I mean. This is a totally different conversation from your sort of open source space engineers sort of games that are designed from the ground up to be modded. That's something else. That's different. And yeah, so like this, to me, it is all kind of one and the same. And it kind of makes me really, really dislike early access, at least in its current state. Because it's just been creeping. You know, it's like an Overton window effect, right? Essentially, it's gotten to a point where we kind of expect a whole bunch of early access games to fail and that sort of stuff. What should be happening is what happens in the world of sort of small business. They put their money, their reputation, everything on the line for that game because they believe that they're making something interesting and good. They crowdfund it through, you know, Kickstarter or early access or whatever it is. They set timelines from the beginning. The project will be completed and will ship by this date, no matter what. And if we need to cut features, we will, because that is how project management works in the real world in every other industry on the planet. And if not, we should be held to account by our investors. We should probably bloody file for fucking liquidation. And, you know, that should be the end of that studio. They should live and die on it. And I'm not saying whether the game is a success or not. The game could be a total flop or whatever, but if they're not sort of, if there sort of needs to be a basic tenet drafted up on early access. And it's like, if you don't deliver on your basic manifest that you know, your memorandum of understanding that you laid out at the beginning when you started asking for funding, then that's it. Your business should be fucking forfeit. It might sound harsh, but funnily enough, there's more parallels to how real business works through that sort of idea. But anyway, so that's sort of my stance on early access. Maybe that will help people sort of just maybe comprehend a little bit more why I'm a little bit more married to the sort of let's say the developer and publisher to a point. But early access kind of moves the publisher to the people, right? The publisher is money for the most part. Sort of why I'm sort of like, it should be the developer's intent fundamentally, because they should be held to account, but they're just not anymore, you know? Or maybe they never were with the gaming industry, you know? I only know what I know in my modern escapades, you know? I don't know how it was in the Pong days and bloody Space Invaders. But yeah, so that sort of ties into there. Just a bit of food for thought, mostly because it's not something, like, you guys obviously express some pretty strong positions on modding. All of them pretty much valid, you know. I'm not trying, this isn't a back and forth. It's not me trying to rebuke the merits of mods. I think mods are a fantastic and modern innovation for the gaming industry, but you can probably see how some of this for me ties into the bad actors using early access inappropriately. So Scarlett, how do we fix this problem? Well, like I said, we should probably just regulate it like normal industry. But the thing is, I suspect, not that I'm trying to, like, I don't know, this is all speculative. Steam probably makes a shitload of money out of all these garbage shovelware early access games that come out of nowhere and do absolutely nothing and achieve nothing, right, and then disappear away. And I think everyone makes money except the consumer. The consumer ends up paying for a stupid product that, yeah, never had it outlined. So what it needs is kind of regulation, I truly think. I know it's not very libertarian of me, but if you're going to have this system, then you should probably regulate it. Or get rid of it altogether, right? Think about, now I know this is obviously very broad, but think about how it works in the real world outside of early access, up in that sort of AAA space. You have interested parties, investment firms, individuals, whatever, but you have, oh, there's another cut here. Right? You have these blokes that have 7,000 lawyers and they write it all up and they ironclad it and they put disclosures in there. Now, if it's a bad investment, look at that, 8 million. That might be a personal best, actually. 8 million. If it's a bad investment, you lose your money because, you know, you invested in the wrong game and like Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Like, I enjoyed that, but I know, you know, financially it was absolutely catastrophic for Ubisoft. But that's just how investment works. You make your decision and it goes to shit, right? But say Ubisoft, in this example, didn't ever release the game fully, or they released it missing bits and bobs that were promised that weren't in it. Like, and I'm not saying necessarily to the public, because that's a different conversation. They weren't asking for your investment money. They're asking for you to buy a product. That's a different part of the exchange in the carry of the money in the industry. I'm talking about if they promise certain things to the investors, we'll ship by, meet these standards, you know, even down to like bloody workplace regulation, that sort of stuff. But I don't know how it works in the gaming industry strictly. But they would have certain requirements that are sort of given truths in a way, like it's a tick box. And if Ubisoft was found to be not doing that, then they'd probably try and recoup their money through lawyers and that sort of stuff. And that's what I'm sort of saying, that behind the curtains thing that we, the people, don't get to see because we're not actually investors in games, like at a larger scale. There is sort of a regulation there, if only from on an individual investor to a company on a lawyer basis that they set up. But because we're doing this franchise version of early access funding, there aren't any checks and balances in there to make sure that the company is actually delivering on the promise. I'd be curious, actually. There probably is a whole bunch of EULA that we're all signed up to through Steam for the early access program, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, we've got absolutely no rights. If the company wants to go belly up and run and not come good on its promise, bad luck. I'm not sure. But anyway, maybe that adds a little bit of perspective, team. Another little bit of a rant, but I had it on my mind. I don't want to get mired down on the mods thing. Like, you know, I've stated that my position's a little bit more traditionalist, I suppose, in the more art form, whereas a lot more of the modern positions for the mods is more, how do we say, more of a work product, like a collaborative output. Because remember, like, art is art, right? Even the new Naughty Dog Last of Us 2, which everyone hates except the critics or whatever. But at the end of the day, regardless of what you think, they made their thing, right? And that's their prerogative, even if it's financially to their detriment, right? Apparently the most returned copies of any game ever. And that's sort of on the artistic side. Like, if they want to cut their own feet off because they've got a message to deliver, that's kind of their prerogative with their property, you know. And that might be a bit of a tough pill to swallow, especially, like, I don't like it. I loved Last of Us 1, and we're not going to get into this too much. But at the same time, it's their thing to, if they want to shoot themselves in the foot because they think they know better, then that's fine. And that's sort of, that was my position ultimately. It's like, art is art. And you put it out for your own reasons. There doesn't even have to be a reason. It's just an expression, right? Whereas I think the mod argument on the other side, for most of you guys, not that I'm trying to put words in your mouth, is broadly about like improving the end product to the user, which is a much more corporate way of looking at it, which I'm all about because I love capitalism. But you sort of see what I mean. You're saying that the mods, it's not so much about the original vision, but it's more in service of a better quality product where it might be in different iterative forms for different people, and then you're getting more value out of the original sort of purchase, I suppose. And I'm all about that, but it is actually like the side of the other side of the coin. Anyway, so the whole reason I mentioned that sort of early access thing here, it sort of should tie into that and my stance, and it actually should. I'd be curious if it resonates with you guys as well, the modding guys, because there should be a standard that it's held to. And I'm all about mods and free expression through them, but using mods to fix something that should have been done properly in the first place, no, we shouldn't praise that. I don't think, well, I'm not going to deal in definites. My opinion is we shouldn't praise that. If anything, we should rise against that sort of behavior. So no, unacceptable. And I would argue, even if the game is nice and you liked it, but it's not quite there because they just didn't do the job that was expected, abandon it. Boycott it, cut it away, don't repair it for them, you know, because they dishonor everyone else, you and their entire thing, by just not doing the product justice in the first place. But having said that, that's just, you know, my position, just a thought, and I'm sharing it with you. Another little bit of a wordy rant, but you guys really grabbed onto the mod thing, so I thought I'd inject something a little adjacent, give you something to chew over in your mind. As always, you're welcome to tell me what you think. Might just leave it there for the time being, and I will catch you guys on the next one.